I normally call myself a historian of art instead of art history. But people normally say this is art history. Art and history should not be separated. Art, history, literature should go side by side because they all vividly reflect history. Art reflects the aesthetics, the value of a people of the time in history. Without that, the history would be missing a big picture, would be very boring.
Hello everybody, my name is Ana Chavez, and what you just heard was part of my interview with Professor Li Duyi here at Florida International University for my project Learning History through Art. In this project, I will seek to explain the importance of integrating art into history lessons and describe several different assignments that teachers could use to achieve this. Because as you just heard from Professor Yi, history and art should not be separated. And this is true across all levels of education. A lot of students struggle with history classes, with Forbes reporting that only 15% of 8th graders scored proficient or above in US history. Schools often focus on improving math and reading scores, but history classes should not be left behind. History can help students better understand the world we live in. It can also help them develop skills in research, writing, assessing evidence, conflict interpretation, and empathy, which are useful beyond history classes. The Forbes article also describes how this is not a new problem, and that over 30 years ago it was already becoming apparent that there were large gaps in students' understanding of history. So, if the methods for teaching history that we have been using for a very long time now are not working, maybe we should look at new alternatives. Integrating art into history classes could be a good way of improving the curriculum, especially since we live in such a visual society, where around 80% of the information the brain receives, it does it through sight. Studies also show that when analyzing an image, the brain uses all of its parts at the same time. Learning to analyze art can also help break up the monotony of memorization and lectures, and it would be an especially welcome change for visual learners. Some might argue that art and history are not closely related, but they would be incorrect, as can be seen by the prehistoric cave paintings and sculptures, which are the only record of these early civilizations. They are also the most abundant primary source for other ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia or the Shang dynasty from ancient China. When analyzing an artwork, it's essential to understand the context. This is where teachers can start integrating art into the classroom. Take, for example, American Progress by Gast. This painting is a perfect example that teachers can use when teaching about American expansionism and the manifest destiny, as it covers a range of themes related to this topic, from the displacement of Native Americans to industrial progress of the railroad to the gold rush and the search for fertile land. It can also help students get a more global context for the history they're learning. By studying various pieces of Chinese art, students can see how the introduction of Buddhism from India would later influence Chinese culture. Art can not only give us a better understanding of the historical facts of a certain time period, it can also help us understand the morals and values of the people. Another example from American history could be the statue of George Washington by Jane Antoine Houdon, where students can analyze how Americans attempted to differentiate themselves from their European counterparts. They could do a compare and contrast of this statue with a contemporary painting of George III. Or for European history, students could analyze Gustave Courbet's paintings, and how the rising interest in the common people and their plight would eventually lead to the socialist movement. Additionally, art can help humanize history and help students empathize with people of the past. Students can analyze paintings from Goya and Kirchner to better understand the effects of war on people. Contemporary art can also give students more context to more recent history that affects them personally. A study conducted by 2 teachers at New York University studied how students and teachers were challenged to reconsider their notion of immigration and culture through Tomie Arai's Memory in Progress, a Mother-Daughter project. There might be some people that are worried that implementing such changes can be hard or expensive, but that is not necessarily the case. There are already many free resources available for teachers. Take, for example, the Smithsonian Learning Lab that already has lesson plans made by teachers that you can implement into your own plans. Most museums also have a catalog of their works with explanations that teachers can use to learn about artworks that they might not be familiar with. Others might say that history is already a subject that is saturated with content, and that adding art would be overcomplicating it. But in this digital age where videos and photos can be found everywhere, many of which are false, it's essential for students to be able to analyze images the same way they can analyze text. And history class provides the perfect opportunity for students to develop this skill. Thank you everyone for your time, and I hope you learned something new today, and that you're inspired to change your approach to history. If you have any questions, leave a comment below.